As the Honorable Prime Minister, accompanied by the Honorable Minister, take their seats, I would like to request that we stay standing so that we can move straight into our program, which starts with the national anthem and the East African anthem. Can we have those running? And shall we have the lights, please? The anthems.
Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Uzalendo pia mshikamano viwe msingi wa umoja wetu, na tulinde uhuru na amani, mila zetu na desturi zetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Viwandani na hata mashambani, tufanye kazi sote kwa makini, tujitoe kwa hali na mali, tuijenge jumuiya bora. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu.
Thank you very much, Honorable Prime Minister and the Minister. You can take your seats. Guests, ladies and gentlemen, kindly take your seats so that we can start our program. A very good morning once again to all of you. The Right Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Dr. Ndugu Ruhakana Rugunda, representing His Excellency the President of the Republic of Uganda, the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Honorable Matia Kasaija, Honorable Ministers present, Chief CEOs, Captains of Business, all guests invited, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you once again to the launch of the Capital Markets Development Master Plan for Uganda. It's a very, very big occasion for us this morning, and we are delighted that you were able to take off time to join us this morning. And as I told you earlier on, we'll try as much as possible to stick to the program so that we don't keep you longer than you can stay here this morning. And so without wasting a lot of time, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to take this opportunity to invite the Chief Executive Officer of the Capital Markets Authority, Mr. Keith Kalyegira, to give us his welcome remarks, to welcome our chief guest and all the other guests this morning. And I would also like to request you to invite the next speaker thereafter.
Right Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Ruhakana Rugunda, representing His Excellency the President of the Republic of Uganda, Honorable Ministers and former Ministers present, Honorable Members of Parliament, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed, a very good morning to you all. I thank you very much, Right Honorable Prime Minister, and all dignitaries and invited guests for making the time to grace this occasion. We're indeed honored and privileged by your presence. Your Excellency, as His Excellency mentioned in his speech during the State of the Nation and the budget speech, he did say that the economy is on the right track, and that inspires a lot of confidence, which is critical to those seeking capital to expand their operations and those seeking to invest in these companies that are seeking capital. Indeed, inflation over the past 20 years in Uganda has been an average of about 7.4%, and the Uganda shilling has devalued by an annual average of only 5.5% to the dollar over the past 25 years. This is further testimony of the importance of sound economic management, and we'd like to thank His Excellency, through you, Right Honorable Prime Minister, for your leadership in ensuring sound macroeconomic stability. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to provide some background information to the thinking that led to the development of Uganda's Capital Markets Development Master Plan. Globally, there's a pool of about $45 trillion available in long-term savings seeking investments all over the world. Of this amount, about $9 trillion is currently earning a negative return because of the prevailing low interest rates in the world. This is a very attractive prospect for capital markets such as Uganda and East Africa as a whole, which have over the years provided positive returns in spite of several bottlenecks. 19 countries in Africa, including Kenya, Tanzania, and Rwanda, have so far tapped into this international pool of savings through sovereign bond issues. Uganda too can tap into these pools of savings through infrastructure projects or other large-scale public or private sector ventures. Domestically and indeed regionally, pension savings have been growing at about 28% annually over the past 5 years and are currently at 8 trillion shillings, Uganda shillings, of which 5 trillion is already invested in government treasury bills and bonds. The total regional savings are at about $18 billion, and these savings all need to be invested in assets to provide meaningful returns to contributors and pensioners. Ladies and gentlemen, the trustees of these long-term savings, who are the providers of capital, need to be confident about the safety of their funds before investing. The standards of the Capital Markets Authority has put in place, we should know as regulations, which we periodically revise, and ensuring strict compliance to these standards is what gives financial investors confidence to invest in Uganda and the region. You see, we are simply a screen or veil through which those who seek capital and those who need to go through to access those savings. Essentially, we are like a gatekeeper as the Capital Markets Authority. Our vision as an authority is to establish Uganda's capital market as the most efficient and trusted center for attracting and providing capital in Africa. It's against this backdrop that we decided to lead the preparation of this 10-year Capital Markets Development Master Plan. It's got 3 key objectives. The first one is to increase access to alternative funding, that's domestic, regional, and international long-term savings, in order to reduce the pressure on bank financing, particularly for medium to large companies who are adding value to natural resources, who are into agro-processing, into light manufacturing, mining, energy, etc. That's the first objective. The second objective is to increase the size of the domestic savings, both voluntary savings and contractual savings by law. And the third objective is to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of regulation, the stock exchange operations, the brokers and fund managers who are licensed and operating in this market. More specifically, Your Excellency, the master plan specifies the following 6 broad reform areas. The first one is government leadership. This is very, very important and is key, is a first key recommendation for this stage of the evolution of our capital markets. The second is expanding issuance and enabling more capital raising. This reform pillar is comprised of about 10 of the 27 recommendations in the master plan, and it's perhaps the most important because, as we all know, we've had it's been a long time since we had an issuance in the stock exchange, the last one being Umeme in 2012. It includes increasing exposure of existing debt and equity instruments, getting the growth enterprise market segments to work, raising awareness amongst potential issuers, reviewing the fiscal regime for purposes of ensuring tax neutrality, and improving the quality of financial reporting amongst corporates. This is one of the main bottlenecks for preventing access for the quality of financial reporting and corporate governance. Widening the investor base and investor choice is the third objective. This pillar also constitutes about 6 of the 27 recommendations and includes widening the investor base through increasing savings options, pension reform, market awareness, and launching a national savings product. The fourth is making market infrastructure more cost-effective. This has 3 components, including removing some regulatory duplication with respect to depositories, eliminating settlement risk, and improving the effectiveness of the operational processes. The fifth, ladies and gentlemen, is improving the legal, regulatory, and supervisory environment. This also has about 6 components out of the 27 the recommendations that we have, and revolves around the need to review and amend the legal and regulatory framework for capital markets to ease issuance of securities, eliminate duplicative procedures and allow for innovation and product development, review the law governing collective investment schemes, as well as developing specific guidelines for infrastructure bonds. It also involves reviewing the NSSF and UBRA investment guidelines. Improving financial intermediation is a final objective of this master plan. Ultimately, we'd like to see companies listed in Uganda on the Uganda Securities Exchange attain the Morgan Stanley Capital International Frontier Market classification in order for Uganda to be able to attract large global institutional investors into our market. This will require several reforms which are captured in the Capital Markets Development Master Plan and include encouraging the largest companies in Uganda to become publicly listed, having efficient trading, clearing, and settlement infrastructure, building strong market intermediaries with the prerequisite skills, and developing an effective and facilitative regulatory framework. Ladies and gentlemen, this master plan is a collection of thoughts, recommendations, and actions that we all need to take to improve the competitiveness of our capital market industry as a provider and source of patient capital. Working with the membership of the bodies such as the Manufacturers Association, Chamber of Commerce, Chamber of Mines and Petroleum, Electricity Regulatory Authority, and the Private Sector Foundation, we are more than determined to ensure that the goals of this blueprint are fully realized. Our industrial sector needs to appreciate the existence and benefits of this alternative form of funding, what they need to do, and in order to access it. We envisage this plan will be updated and reissued every 2 years. Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, I would like to thank the Minister of Finance and the CMA Board of Directors for their support, and the management and staff of CMA for putting this master plan together and getting this day organized. Allow me to make specific mention to the great contribution of FSG Africa, represented here by Mr. Mark Napier, Mark Chauvin, who founded the development of this master plan. Reforming Uganda's capital markets to better provide capital is an imperative as we seek to transform this country into a middle-income country. I call upon all present to be ambassadors and advocates of the capital markets in demonstrating their relevance to this national goal. God bless you all, and thank you very much. And I would like to use this opportunity to invite the Deputy Governor to make his remarks.
The chief guest, the Right Honorable Prime Minister, representing His Excellency the President of the Republic of Uganda, the Honorable Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, other cabinet ministers or state ministers here present, honorable members of Parliament, the Chairman, CMA Board, Chairman, the Capital Markets Master Plan Steering Committee, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, everyone. I am delighted to be here this morning to participate in the launch of the Capital Markets Master Plan. I'm speaking on behalf of the Governor, Bank of Uganda, Professor Emmanuel Tumusiime Mutebire, who is unable to be here due to personal reasons. The Governor is the chairman of the Financial Markets Development Committee, FMDC. The committee, this committee, FMDC, was set up to steer the development of the financial sector and to ensure that the sector maximizes its contribution to the economy. It coordinates reforms across the banking, capital markets, insurance, and pension sectors. The premise behind the creation of FMDC in 2008 was the recognition of the vital and varied roles which the financial system must perform to support economic development. In essence, the financial system must mobilize savings from households and corporations and allocate those savings to a variety of economic agents which can put the savings to productive use. In addition, the financial system must also provide other financial services which are needed in a modern economy, such as payments and insurance services. Savings are scarce in a developing economy. Hence, it is essential that the process of allocating these savings, sometimes referred to as financial intermediation, is very efficient. As demands of investable funds far outstrip supply, the task of the financial sector and financial sector is to ensure that these scarce resources are allocated only to those firms and households which are best able to use them productively, and in doing so, to generate income for the savers who have provided the funds, for example, in the form of interest or dividends. For practical reasons, a market-based financial system driven by profit motive is much more likely to generate efficient allocations of scarce financial resources than a system characterized by state controls, although that does not obviate the need for appropriate prudential regulations by institutions like the Bank of Uganda and the Capital Markets Authority to safeguard the interests of savers and other users of the financial system. While we recognize that financial markets are characterized by market failure, it is often very difficult in practice for governments to correct those market failures. An important component of the financial system is the capital market, which entails funds being mobilized by firms, institutions, or the government directly from savers through the issuance of equities or bonds. Although market-based financial systems are sometimes contrasted with bank-based systems, this is in some respects a false dichotomy. The capital market is not a substitute to the banking system. Instead, capital markets and the banking sector are complements, but each catering for different needs of the economy in terms of financial services. In particular, efficient capital markets are much better suited than commercial banks to provide long-term finance to corporate and public sector. The capital market is also better placed to accommodate the needs of investors, both institutional and personal, who require long-term assets and have a higher appetite for risk than is typical for depositors in commercial banks. As the business sector of our economy develops, and as a larger share of the population are able to participate in institutional vehicles for savings, such as pension schemes, the demand for capital market instruments will grow. In this regard, I would like to note that one of the most important reforms for stimulating capital market development in this country is the genuine reform of the pensions sector, so that all pensions providers licensed by the Uganda Retirement Benefits Authority can compete on a level playing field to manage both the mandatory and voluntary pension contributions. We have been discussing this particular point for some time. I see Richard around. We have put in place the appropriate regulatory structure. Now is the time. Now is the time to liberalize the sector and open it up to competition. Monopoly is never conducive to the vibrant growth of a market. So to conclude, I would like to commend the Capital Markets Authority for their efforts to spearhead the preparation of the master plan for capital market. The Bank of Uganda is proud to have contributed to these efforts and will continue to play a role in supporting capital markets development in our country. I thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Deputy Governor, and do convey our sincere appreciation to the Governor for those strong yet quite enlightening remarks. We do appreciate, and there are quite a number of insights there. Indeed, there was a lot for us to take from that. Right Honorable Prime Minister, allow me at this juncture to invite the Chairman of the Capital Markets Authority, to invite the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development to address us this morning.
The Right Honorable Prime Minister, representing His Excellency the President this morning, our line Minister, Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Honorable Ministers present today, members of the Steering Committee, Capital Markets Development Master Plan, the Deputy Governor of the Central Bank, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. You know, in my culture, when you greet somebody and they don't reply, you start to wonder what has happened. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. That's better. We are happy that you could make today, this morning, to be with us for this very important launch. We will have a moment to appreciate everybody that has made a contribution to this piece of work. But without much ado, I would like to invite the Honorable Minister, Honorable Matia Kasaija, to come and address us. The Honorable Minister.
The Right Honorable Prime Minister of Uganda, representing His Excellency the President. Ministers, I don't see them. Where are my ministers, colleagues? MPs, I haven't seen an MP. Hey, you people, you didn't mobilize the parliament? Members of the diplomatic corps, business captains and the heads of various institutions, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you for taking time to attend the launch of the 10th year Capital Markets Development Master Plan. I'd also like to congratulate the chairman, the board and the management of Capital Market Authority, and all stakeholders on this auspicious occasion of launching the Capital Market Plan, Master Plan. The launch of this Master Plan is indeed a sign of enduring commitment to make capital markets serve the broad national goal of increasing access to affordable and low-cost alternative funding for the private sector, the government in pursuit of transforming Uganda into a middle-income economy. The launch is timely in light of a national development vision premised on supporting growth by diversifying sources of capital, both for the private sector and the public sector. Ladies and gentlemen, may I hasten to say that the Capital Markets Master Plan is not intended to be a silver bullet that will transform Uganda's capital markets overnight, but rather to provide a roadmap that identifies the directions and the broad approach in terms of objectives, recommendations, and actions that will guide and steer the future development efforts for the capital markets. In this master plan, a common goal, vision, and actions are shared to transform Uganda's capital market. Ladies and gentlemen, since inception of the capital markets in Uganda in 1996, modest achievements have been posted. Although, yes, we have posted, I was talking with the chairman before the Prime Minister arrived. I think we need to, I can tell you, if we picked 20 people out of 100 and said, what does the capital market mean? I can assure you many will not be able to explain. I was even telling him, even you are Minister for Finance. So I think we have to really, the Capital Market Authority, really, you have, the chairman told me you've been trying to do a lot to advertise, to explain, to synthesize, but I think we still need to do a lot more. We need it. People don't understand what this capital market is all about. How do I make money? You really have to come up with it. I hope the master plan, which I didn't get a copy, I would have read through it. I hope you'll send me a copy and I look through. But one of the things that really you need to emphasize is selling yourself, to explain the benefits out of this game. And Mr. Prime Minister, I have promised them that I will go even to their place and see how you call it a bouse. You call it a bouse? How they play the game of attracting investors to come in and selling shares and bonds and whatnot. And Mr. Prime Minister, I would also wish to invite you when time can allow you, you come and see what they are doing. So please, let's have a strategic plan of how to sell ourselves to the ordinary Ugandan. Let's not look about investors. Me, I've told you I'm very passionate about savings. One of the reasons that this economy does not move the way we want to move is because we don't save money. I was with him, Richard, the other day, talking to the private sector. We do not save money. And the problem with that, we think, sorry, this I might be, people would accuse me of abusing Ugandans. We don't want to think big. We think big. The business people who are here, please think big. And I will give you the support to become big. Is that clear? You know, someone who makes $100 million, he thinks now he's on top of the world. You are nothing. You go, even Uganda was our country. The other day the president was making fun of me. He says, Kasaji, you speak so big that you are talking of 28 billion dollars, and they think that is a big economy. That's very minute. This is equivalent to some company somewhere in the United States. So let's think big. And the opportunity to get big in Uganda here is plentiful, I can tell you that. It is very plentiful. So please, capital market, also let's think big. Since inception of capital markets in Uganda in 1996, modest achievements have been posted. These include mobilization of 1.22 trillion. 1.22 trillion through issuance of both shares and corporate bonds. It's very small. The listing of 8 domestic companies and 8 companies are cross-listed from the Nairobi Security Exchange. Public sensitization activities on financial literacy and encouraging a savings culture among Ugandans and a fairly flexible legal regulatory framework. We have done some work, but there is still more to be done. Am I very clear? We are just scratching the problem. Let's get to it. And I hope the master plan is really talking about how to mobilize people to understand first what you are doing and how to bring in money and invest. The capital markets industry has barely scratched the surface when the full potential of the industry is considered. I've said that already. A lot more can be achieved with the implementation of the reforms laid out in the capital markets master plan. Development of capital markets in Uganda has faced several impediments, among them being, 1, few companies seeking funding due to corporate governance challenges. Again, it takes us back at the other problem of thinking and acting small. 2, a limited institutional in the investor base. 3, market infrastructure challenges. 4, a narrow retail investor base. 5, high transaction costs. And 6, low investor awareness. Have you heard that? I'm glad this is not my speech. It has been prepared for me by somebody. But I think he was reading my mind already. So, he was reading my mind. The master plan seeks to address these challenges and enable capital markets to make a meaningful contribution to achieving national development goals. The master plan makes recommendations to address the aforementioned bottlenecks and make Uganda's capital markets attractive to businesses seeking capital and investors looking for a decent return on their investment. Everybody wants money. Everybody wants money. Is there anybody here who doesn't want money? If there is one, please put up your hand. When I invest, I want more money. Some of us at our age and the number of years we've been working, we shouldn't be working. But I still want money. I still want money. So when I put my money somewhere, I'm a cattle keeper myself. So when I put my extra shilling in the farm, I want to get an extra shilling. That's natural. Otherwise, if you don't get money for money you put in, then you will cease to exist. You will get dry. So people want money. When they put their money, they want the returns. The master plan makes a recommendation to address, finding an alternative source of patient capital to complement bank financing is one of the priorities mentioned in my budget speech. You remember last week. I am pleased to note that this is one of the areas of focus for the master plan. The capital markets also provide an opportunity for Ugandans to own shares in the companies they support as employees, as customers, and as suppliers. You know, in my part of the world there, 2 hands wash one another. The employees should be stakeholders. The suppliers should be stakeholders in the business. And then we have also another way, you know, when we eat a lot of karo. Now, you know, those people, they would bring a basket of karo. Then you take off here, you swallow. Another one takes off here, swallows. Another one takes, swallows. And now we say, when we are like that, the meat will remain warm. But if you eat only from one side, by the time you get to the other side, it's dry, and no longer tasteful. Hey, so we share. So really, I use this opportunity to encourage as many businesses as possible, if they qualify. I don't know the terms under which they have to qualify, to encourage their employees, their customers, to buy shares within those companies. So that then when they are really fighting, they are fighting for what they would say, a cafe. Employees begin to own that company, a cafe. The suppliers begin to find for it a cafe because they know that it's theirs and therefore it must be sustained. And then they will put management really on the toes to make sure that the company performs well, to get more money. The master plan recommendations are anchored upon 5 key pillars, namely 1, enabling more capital raising through the capital markets. 2, widening the investor base and investor choice. 3, making capital markets more effective and efficient. 4, improving the quality of intermediations. And 5, improving the operating and regulatory environment. These pillars form the foundation of the transformation, from which 27 recommendations and 96 actions are highlighted to ensure achievement of the envisaged outcomes. I'm delighted to note that the implementation process for the Capital Markets Master Plan has been phased into short, medium, and long-term actions. Having the medium and long-term actions clearly highlighted provides a basis to ensure that the short-term initiatives are consistent and coherent with the long-term actions. With the foundations built and the plans in place, the chance of successful implementation are enhanced. Mr. Prime Minister, translating the Capital Markets Master Plan from a collection of recommendations and actions to reality will require multi-sectoral coordination and support. And therefore, I would like to reassure the capital markets industry of my support and the support of my ministry in this direction. It's only with the combined efforts and perseverance of all the stakeholders that the objectives envisaged in the Capital Market Master Plan shall be realized. The ministry, through the Capital Markets Steering Committee I recently appointed, will ensure that the recommendations are given priority by the various implementing agencies, and effective monitoring will be carried out during the period. Finally, Mr. Prime Minister, I would like to thank you and His Excellency the President for you agreeing to come and grace and officiate at this launch of the Capital Market Master Plan. This does send out a very strong signal that the government is committed to exploring all alternative sources of funding that will support the growth of Uganda's private sector as well as fund government operations. I would also like to thank the Department for International Development through the Financial Sector Deepening Africa, the board and the management of the Capital Markets Authority, and other stakeholders for their contribution to this initiative. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much. It's now my pleasure, Mr. Prime Minister, to invite you, to come and deliver the message from His Excellency the President. Thank you very much.
His Excellency President Yoweri Museveni would have wanted to be here to launch this master plan, but because of other duties, he has delegated that responsibility to me. And I will therefore shortly deliver his message. My brother Matia Kasaija, the Minister of Finance, the Deputy Governor, Bank of Uganda, the Chairman, Capital Markets Authority Board, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is with great pleasure that I join you today to launch the 10-year Capital Markets Development Master Plan. Uganda needs sustained economic growth, availability of capital to fund the range of projects that form part of Vision 2040 is a prerequisite. Focusing on initiatives that enhance the development of Uganda's capital markets will therefore be very crucial in mobilizing both domestic and international resources. The Capital Markets Development Master Plan seeks to contribute to capital mobilization by undertaking reforms to facilitate businesses and government access to long-term patient financing in the domestic, regional, and international capital markets, widening the pool of savings and providing more investment opportunities for long-term and short-term savers. Functioning capital markets are not luxury, but a necessity in national development. Over the years, the banking sector has been the main source of financing in supporting growth of the private sector. Vibrant capital markets are vital in easing pressure in the banking sector by providing a complementary source of funding, as indeed the Deputy Governor had articulated earlier, and by bringing down the cost of capital and ensuring that Uganda has a well-balanced financial system. In meeting funding needs of the government and private sectors, the master plan recommendations, once implemented, seek to complement other funding sources. The NRM government has had a good track record of managing inflation. This has ensured that the Uganda shilling remains a very good store of value, which is good for investors in Uganda shilling assets. I would like to encourage more private entities to consider capital markets to complement the banking sector as a source of funding. Capital markets are known globally to encourage high standards of corporate governance and transparency, and research has proven that there is a strong relationship between corporate governance and company performance. So, if value-adding companies and businesses would like to tap into this other form of financing, they must operate professionally. I would also like to appeal to public interest companies in sectors such as telecommunications and banking to consider selling a part of their shares to Ugandans. Companies that were formerly government-owned, companies that were privatized, whether or not this was a condition in the selling agreements, should also consider selling some shares to Ugandans who have supported their growth as customers, suppliers, employees, etc. I also do take note of the growth in Uganda's pension sector, with assets valued at approximately Uganda shillings 8 trillion, an indication of increased national savings. Deepening savings is a critical objective in Vision 2040 and the second National Development Plan. I applaud the efforts of various stakeholders in reforming the pension sector, which have a direct bearing on success of this master plan. The capital markets will provide a bridge between the pension sector and entities seeking long-term patient financing. The accumulation of savings has a direct relationship to capital formation. This master plan has recommendations that will encourage a saving culture in the form of financing instruments among Ugandans. This will be considered at the highest level of government to assess its feasibility. In the same breath, I would like to encourage more Ugandans to save collectively through investment clubs. I'm happy to note that many Ugandans have formed over 15,000 investment clubs as a way of cultivating a savings culture. An aggregation of savings through groups can facilitate better access to investments in Uganda's capital markets. With a national infrastructure deficit running into trillions of shillings, I'm happy to note that the master plan has made recommendations touching on the issuance of infrastructure bonds and also Islamic bonds and municipal bonds that can greatly contribute to the closing of the infrastructure gap if explored by both the central government and local governments. These recommendations will be studied further with a view to having them realized to narrow the infrastructure gap. The implementation of the Capital Markets Development Master Plan will require resources and close cooperation among different stakeholder groups. I would like to reiterate the continued support of the government in ensuring that resources are available and stakeholders work harmoniously together in seeing the realization of the recommendations and actions as laid out in the master plan. Finally, I would like to express my gratitude to the Department for International Development through the Financial Sector Deepening Africa for supporting this initiative. Yes, they deserve some clap. Additionally, I would also like to thank the Ministry of Finance, the Board and Management of the Capital Markets Authority, the Master Plan Steering Committee, and all stakeholders who contributed to making the Capital Markets Master Plan a reality and also a living document. I thank you.
Honorable Prime Minister, who is here as the chief guest representing His Excellency the President, would like to invite you to unveil a copy, a dummy copy of the Capital Markets Development Master Plan. It's a 10-year master plan. That is what the document looks like. And just over here is a pair of scissors for you to cut that ribbon so that we can all witness the official launch of the 10-year Capital Markets Development Master Plan 2016-17 stroke 2026-2017. Thank you very much, Honorable Prime Minister, and we would like to invite you to sign that document as a sign of launching it and confirm to us that it's now an official Government of Uganda document which will be implemented by the Capital Markets Development Steering Committee. And we invite the Honorable Minister to also sign that document. Yes, Honorable Minister, as proof that we are going to implement this document in cooperation with all the other stakeholders who have been mentioned, led by the Steering Committee. The Board Chairman of the Capital Markets Authority will also append his signature, and so will the CEO. And we'll request the Honorable Prime Minister to symbolically hand over the document to the Board Chairman, who will represent the Chair of the Steering Committee in receiving that document for its implementation. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Right Honorable Prime Minister. would like to request you to symbolically have a handshake with the chairman who will receive that document, because he's going to be part of the implementing team. We thank you very much. Thank you very much, Right Honorable Prime Minister. And the Minister of Finance would like to request you to take your seats briefly so that we can have our board chairman, Mr. Grace Kavuma, deliver a vote of thanks. It's just a vote of thanks. He definitely cannot speak after the Prime Minister, so it's a vote of thanks to all the key guests here as we wrap up our launch this morning. Mr. Kavuma.
Thank you so much, Charles. The Right Honorable Prime Minister, the Honorable Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, the Deputy Governor of the Central Bank, the captains of business who are gathered here this morning, the captains of government business as well who are here, members of the steering committee of the Capital Markets Development Master Plan, the board of Capital Markets Authority, my colleagues at Capital Markets Management, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. Should I say good morning again? Good morning. Thank you. We are very delighted, Honorable Prime Minister, that you could come to officiate and grace this occasion when we launch this master plan. We pledge our commitment that together with stakeholders in government and in private sector and players in the securities markets, that we will implement and follow up the recommendations that have come through. So, Honorable Prime Minister, I would like to thank you so much, and I would like to request everybody to give the Prime Minister some bit of love. Thank you. I'd also like to thank our Minister, the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, for the support we receive as capital markets from the ministry, both financial, strategic, and policy guidance. We thank you, and we thank you for having spent time to come and be with us and delivering your speech. I think the minister deserves some love too. Honorable Prime Minister, you've already thanked the international development through financial sector deepening Africa for their contribution. Their contribution enabled that the capital markets was able to procure a consultant to help fund and progress this piece of work that you've just launched. A big applause for FSDA. I would like to thank my colleagues on the steering committee of the Capital Markets Development Master Plan. I would like Honorable Prime Minister to request them to stand up for recognition. Colleagues on the steering committee of the Development Master Plan. Keith. Thank you very much for your support. Honorable Prime Minister, will continue to work together as a team to ensure that these recommendations are implemented. I'd like also to thank the consultant, Cadogan Consultants, who made it possible, who worked with us over the months to ensure that this piece of work is concluded. Cadogan, give them a big round of applause. There are various other technical committees that worked together with the consultants, colleagues at Capital Markets, senior management team, and the board of directors of capital markets, I'd also like to thank you very much, and you deserve some peace of love. Invited guests, thanks for coming. Thanks for being with us, and I know in your various capacities you've made a contribution and you continue to make a contribution, and for sparing the moment to be with us this morning. We thank you so very much. Honorable Prime Minister, as you leave, we want to pledge our commitment that we will follow through. I think most of these kind of plans fail when follow through and implementation fails. You've whispered a word in my ear that you would like to see this implemented and that we have government support. So we pledge that we will follow through and implement the short-term, the medium, and the long-term recommendations that are in that document. I was about to say that are enshrined in that document. But we commit that we will be able to implement those recommendations. I'd like to thank everybody for coming and have a good morning. Thank you.
Mr. Prime Minister, I would like that you carry a copy of this plan. I know you're a very busy man, but I'm sure somebody in the office could summarize and give you a synopsis of what is contained in that plan. So do we have a copy which we can pass on the Prime Minister right now?
Yes, Honorable Minister, we are going to deliver a copy as the Honorable Prime Minister walks out. We will hand it over. But at this point, allow me to, we'll have the anthems as we close. We will also have a request to have a group photo with the Right Honorable Prime Minister, the Minister, the Steering Committee, and the members of the board just outside at the stairs once we walk out, and I think that will be the final wrap-up. Shall we have the anthems, please? Ladies and gentlemen, let's stand up for the anthems.
Mungu twaomba uilinde Jumuiya Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Uzalendo pia mshikamano viwe msingi wa umoja wetu, na tulinde uhuru na amani, mila zetu na desturi zetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Viwandani na hata mashambani, tufanye kazi sote kwa makini, tujitoe kwa hali na mali, tuijenge jumuiya bora. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite the members of the steering committee. I would like to invite Mr. Mark Napier from FSDA to come and join in the group photo as well, just at the stairs outside. Thank you all for coming, and we wish you a good day.